We are back.
I think we had 3 shows where Isaac remembered, and that was that.
So I'm sorry. We were doing
right.
such a good run on Sunday for not staying muted, but hey, we're back. We have even less time now.
Yeah, we have even less time. All right. So, IP number 1. First of all, put a lot of work into this.
Let me do at least the introduction. We're here doing
our
top 10 IPs at record speed. We're going to be on with Amanda Panda here at the top of the hour. It's 5 o'clock. But now we're going to our top 10 IPs. I jumped my mouth, so I'm talking all weird. And we're super excited. And Lindsey prepared a lot for this, apparently. So
I put so much work into this. We're going to rush through it, though. So, Akira, it was a good discussion, by the way. Akira. This is such an amazing movie. It's such an amazing world. It was the foundation of cyberpunk. It just was the core of so much culture that came after it. And I think it would make an amazing board game, especially from Tetsuo's perspective, as he is losing control of himself, as he's losing control of his mind. He doesn't understand what's happening to him. And I think seeing that story from his perspective would be so incredible. But even if none of the characters were in it, this is a world that I would really like to explore. And it would be such an honor to contribute to the legacy that this has created, that this IP has created in our world.
Very interesting. Very neat. So my first IP is X-Men. Hello. X-Men. You guys all know X-Men. X-Men's probably the most popular IP, I think, on my list. Look, the Saturday morning cartoon alone got so many of us in my generation obsessed with X-Men. I'm in love with all of the characters. I still am discovering new characters in this world because I'm not like the most like, oh, I've dove into every single X-Men comic kind of guy. Like, I just don't have time to do that kind of stuff. But I have watched every movie, even the bad ones. I just love this world, what it tries to represent. Just all the different mutants have so many interesting powers, and I think it spawns so many cool spin-offs and so many interesting things, and I am enamored by the character building. Storm, who's my favorite X-Men.
Storm was my favorite too. Was it your favorite?
Yes, she's my favorite.
That was my favorite character. I had a hamster named Storm.
And I love this cast of characters. They're always going to be able to get me, and I am very much looking forward to more coming out from the series. But it's also inspired so much. I think like the dynamic between Magneto and Professor X and how their constant discussion, how that has evolved, I think is some of the great hero villain dynamics of our time. Like, it's one of the best stories that's able to explore that, and it explores it so interestingly. And I just very much adore the X-Men series. So yeah, that's my number 1. Again, no particular order.
No particular order, but it's his number 1.
The number 1 thing I listed. So let's go ahead and go on to yours, to our wonderful God, what's this kid's name? It's the only one that
is that Case Closed? I don't know what you're putting up because
it's the little kid, the little anime kid.
I'm guessing it's Case Closed.
Case Closed, probably.
All right, Case Closed, also known as Detective Conan.
Detective Conan, that's it.
Yeah. I was in the detective club growing up. It wasn't in America. My parents actually mailed out to Japan so that I could be part of the Detective Conan Kid Club and get my pins and solve my mysteries.
Wow.
But I loved them. I have really nice parents.
Aww.
But I loved the show as a kid. I have continued to love it as an adult. The premise is that there's a adult detective or a teenage detective that gets drugged and turns into a little kid and has to find the people who did it to him. And while he's doing that, he is living with another detective who is terrible and just solving his mysteries for him while he tries to find the people to change him back into an adult teenager. And it is just a world. I know it's our world, but it's super fun. I love mysteries. I love detectives. I didn't want to do Sherlock Holmes because there's so many Sherlock Holmes out there. And this is really an IP that hasn't gotten the love in America that I think it deserves. There's like a whole Conan town in Japan. Japan does not have this problem. But it would be like my childhood dream come true to work on a real Detective Conan product.
Wow.
And then I would obviously wear all my badges the entire time I designed it, because I still have all my badges from when I was a kid. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. There are some American seasons, but obviously there's way more if you want to watch the subtitles. But amazing very, very cool. IP.
So my number 2 is Trigun. Now Trigun truly started my love for anime. Now, like every young boy during my time, probably my first anime was Dragon Ball Z. But Trigun was truly what started my passion and my love for this genre of anime. I love shorter anime seasons that are kind of like yes. compressed, that they have like a full story that they want to tell, and they do it very, very well. Oh my gosh, the story of Vash, it starts off so funny and lighthearted.
Very silly.
It's so funny and lighthearted and gets you into it, gets you in love with all the characters. And then it starts exploring these deeper themes. The thought of being a character that's somewhat immortal in a way, living through loss, having to have this levity in his heart and almost this disconnection, but also deeply loving and caring so much about humanity and sacrificing everything to not kill. And I think it's the only story that I've truly seen that truly explores what not killing can mean. I think like a lot of our superhero stories and talk about like, I just don't kill. I'm Batman and I don't kill anyone.
But I'll blow up like a building.
I'll blow up buildings and cars and thousands of like, it doesn't matter. But in this, it is true. Like he takes every effect or everything he is within his power not to harm another human being.
And the price is high for him.
And the price is incredibly high in the world that is built around this. And I just absolutely adore that question being explored in this series in a way that's very likable, very interesting, very compelling. And it's still an argument amongst me and my brothers who absolutely love this story. And it's one that will stick with me throughout my entire life, and it's definitely inspired my thought process on decision making in your life. Like what kind of decision, what are you willing to sacrifice for your morals and your thoughts and what you believe is the right thing to do. And it's truly a great story that explores that, and I absolutely adore it.
It's very good.
All right, moving on. Final Fantasy for Lindsey.
Yes, Final Fantasy X. So I've kind of come to the belief that whatever the first Final Fantasy you play as a kid is gonna be your favorite Final Fantasy. Yep. Mine was Final Fantasy X, but I love the world. I love the time travel aspect of it. I love the fact that they are still in the future, but it feels like you've been transported back to the past because so much was lost through the wars and the deaths and the violence.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that because I feel like it's almost not remembered for that very well, but it's one of the first stories that explores that we've experienced, right? Yeah. How like the world can change in the opposite direction that you think after a huge technological advancement.
Right, you can reach or at least they explored like what happens if you reach the peak of technology and it destroys you. And they were actually like the world was much more beautiful in the future without that technology, much more vibrant, much more, I mean, not exciting necessarily, but you know, it almost was interesting that the future was more beautiful than the past, even though they had lost so much. And the concept of sin as manifestation and what it cost and the sacrifices at the end. You have to understand, I was like 13. I was being hit with these things all at once. They were just brand new like at least in stories to my childhood, they were brand new concepts. They were very deep. They exposed me to maybe endings aren't always happy. And what does that look like? You know, maybe characters don't always get what they want. And what does that look like? Yeah. So I would love it. And not just that, but the world is beautiful. The world is just a gorgeous world. I love Blitzball. Me and my friends tried to make a full version of Blitzball many times.
I love Blitzball too.
I love Blitzball. I would play that game just like that all over hours. But like, I would be so excited to do this world. It would be such a gorgeous game. It's one of the reasons I like Title Blade so much because it reminds me of this world so much. And it's also a fantastic game, but I would just love to do this.
Did you play Final Fantasy X2?
I started it, but I was not feeling it.
It's a very different feel. I will say it was
a very different feel.
Sure.
I think I started it and I just went back and played number 10 again.
Honestly, I played 10 too. I enjoyed it as well. Obviously, not as much as 10. Like 10 would have been my list if not for my next thing.
I know.
But what I did, for all of the same reasons, Titus is a very compelling character as well in what he goes through, and Yuna's journey as well is just like so heartbreaking.
It is. Yeah. Board Game Feast, finish it. The ending will change the story that you know. And if you have not finished it, that ending is amazing.
Yeah, and it's been beautifully remastered. Both Final Fantasy 10 and 10-2.
Although keep playing 7. Finish 7 first, because that's great.
7's great. And if you're playing the new 7, I don't know if you're playing the remake. It's also great. I love it.
I hope you're playing the remake, because I'm playing the remake for the first time.
Good.
I've never played it. It's so good.
Yeah, but Final Fantasy, this IP is both very near and dear to both Lindsey and I. And
we would probably take any Final Fantasy.
Probably.
We hope it's one of the ones that we want.
Just to swearing next. But my Final Fantasy is also the first one that I played, which is Final Fantasy 9. And oh my god. Final Fantasy 9, I played this game so much. I bought this game, I think, 6 different times. It is my number 1 game of all time. Nothing's dethroned it as of yet. And for me, it's definitely the first cast of characters that I've ever been very, very enamored with. Like, I loved the cast, and I also loved the story of what Zidane was going through and what Dagger was going through. Because, like, Dagger was this very interesting character. She was probably not... She was not the typical quote-unquote princess. Like, that is constantly what... She's literally, like, rejecting being saved. And, like, get away from me. I got my own shit going on. You don't need to know what's going on. I have things to do. And she's running off in her own direction, doing her thing. And Zidane's, like, chasing after her, trying to figure out itself. And also, his entire story comes into hers. And figuring out this entire depth to who he is. And Vivi, oh my god, Vivi, my special little wizard who I love so dearly. His burden of knowing that his time on this planet is so limited, is so explored and talked about in this game so deeply. The layers of that is so beautiful and sad all at the same time. There's also somewhat of that. I know, right? Poor Confused is crying about Vivi. Oh my god. And Freya as well. Her loss, looking for her partner who's lost all memory of her. It's just so insane, and she's so badass. Like, there's so much interesting thoughts on, like, there's so much. This entire game is about memories, how they affect you, what your life means, and why it's important, whether or not something that's like it kind of explores the thought process of what it means to be alive. And I love this game. I don't know what happened to Final Fantasy after 10, that it just
I don't know, because it was just bam 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 there for a while, like, and then I don't know what happened.
But my god, these past 2 games, like Final Fantasy X is definitely my second favorite. I absolutely adore it. But Final Fantasy IX was the first one I purchased. It was the first game I ever bought with my own money, and oh my god, it has just impacted me so much. And I just hope that one day I can make a game that is as dynamic as these characters, explores the themes of life and death, but still having the iconic vision of what they represent. I think it was the ultimate, like, representation. Like, I know that the person that worked on this very much wanted to kind of revitalize the feeling of the original Final Fantasy series when it started off at 1, and trying to bring that kind of love back into it. And the music in this game I listen to all the time. I just absolutely adore it. And there's just so many right things going on in this game. It's a wacky world as well. It's just absolutely wacky. There's animal type creatures. Quina is a weird thing chef that like searches for frogs. You have these adorable little Mongol network that just they deliver mail, and these little creatures deliver mail. It's so cute and amazing, and I love it, and I will never stop loving it. And that's my whatever number we're on. All right, on to Gargoyles, Lindsay.
Gargoyles. Oh my god. Gargoyles. I love Gargoyles so much, and I think it really does not get enough credit for what it did and when it was out. So it was out in the 90s, and they had the main character, what was her name? I wrote it down because I know to forget. Lisa Mazza, who, by the way, has a character in the field journal for Keystone that I named after her because I love her so much. And I was trying to think like strong women, and I was like, oh, Lisa Mazza from Gargoyles, the cop, would be great.
Gargoyles, so good.
Yeah, so check out Dr. Mazza in the field journal when you get it and know where it's from. You'll be the only one that knows. But Gargoyles was incredible. They explored such dark themes about loss. There was an episode where Brooklyn accidentally was playing with a gun and shot Lisa and then was horrified, and they went through all that. Like, really interesting themes to be hitting children with. And then just on top of that, the writing was amazing. It deserves more people to know what it had done. It was also one of the very few very strong female leads back then, showing that like the head of the police department was this cop, and it was a woman. And she was the only one that could still like stand up to the big corporations. And it was just, it's so good.
So good.
I would do anything to play around on that IP. I believe a Gargoyles game was announced recently for board games. Don't screw it up.
Please don't.
Break my heart. If you need help, call me.
we will happily help you out.
We will happily help you out. Make sure that
this
game...
IP.
Yeah, because this IP deserves only the best to add to that story.
Very much so. Very much so. It's fantastic, and the fact that it hasn't rebooted or brought back to life is astounds
me. What are we doing? I have no idea.
Like, I am usually fine with people not rebooting stuff. Like, we do too much of it already. Right. But this one, I want it back. Bring it back. Give it to me.
Yeah, and like amazing directors have volunteered to take it. Amazing directors, really good ones, have said they would take it if Disney would just let them.
Wow. All right, on to my next one, which is Saga. Oh, Saga, this comic book is just so amazing. I honestly was not like a super big comic book fan, and I don't know if I could really consider myself one. I have a small comic book collection. I have a very small comic book collection, but I want to keep building it. It's kind of like my other hobby that I really want to get into. I'd also love to make a comic book one day. I will fully admit that. Maybe I've already hinted at something, but Saga is just so wacky and interesting. Its world, like Lindsey has been saying so much about all of these other IPs. This world is insane, but it is so grounded in this story of this small starting family, what they experience, this relationship in between these two individuals, while also trying to raise their daughter on the run from the law, from this in this world that seems like it's constantly trying to say you should not exist. And I am so like enamored by this story. I cannot wait till they start coming back with it, because it's just beautiful. And I wish there were more stories like this. I wish there were more stories that were featuring characters that are also not, at least not white representing, even if they're not necessarily, with the human race. This story is just so beautiful, and there's great representation in it as well, and exploring all of this from the perspective of a child that was raised in the situation that, based on them telling the story, is still alive, but you don't know who else is, and you're connecting to all of these characters that sometimes you may lose some, and it's so interesting. along the way, I highly, highly suggest, if you guys have been sleeping on Saga, which I know a lot of people love Saga, so I know probably that's not the case, but if you don't know anything about comic books or have not explored comic books, I highly suggest Saga being your first one. It gave me the bug of comics, and I am not looking back. I love it. So definitely check it out. All right, Lindsay, on to yours. Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, but no, it's not just Spider-Man.
Not just Spider-Man.
It has to be Into the Spider-Verse, because I actually didn't like Spider-Man from Into the Spider-Verse. It is the best
It's so good.
comic movie I've ever seen. It is probably one of the best animated achievements that I will ever see in my life. I went into this movie not really knowing anything about it. I think it was like a girls' night that like everyone had just like kind of wandered off, and I was like, well, I'll go see Into the Spider-Verse. It blew my mind. And this is the only comic I'm not super into comics. I like comics, they're great, but this is the only one that I would be like just so honored to work on. I would certainly want to be part of a team because they have so many different perspectives, and it's such an amazing cast. I love Gwen so much. So much.
Great.
She's like, oh, but like just, and it's not just the story, which is amazing, the characters, which obviously you can tell they had a lot of different types of people working on this because their perspectives all come through in a very authentic way. But just the colors, the music, the way that it was put together, I believe is one of the most revolutionary and highest achievements of an animated film I've ever seen. And I would love, 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 love to contribute to that world. And continue
I
what
love
they're
it
doing.
too. It's one of my favorite movies. It's just so good.
Good.
Have you by chance played the new Spider-Man game?
No, I haven't.
Oh my
Because I don't
gosh.
normally like Spider-Man.
Yeah, well,
This
you
is
know,
the only
like,
thing I've ever liked with Spider-Man.
I know it will be the original Spider-Man, but honestly, I feel like they'd have a little bit of the touch and the magic that made this movie so good, and it made me start falling more in love with Spider-Man 2. But I will be completely honest, I am in love with swinging around a city in a video game. So it's just like, there is also that, so that might be completely clouding my eyes.
Well, they also have, I think, a Miles Morales
Yes, and
expansion or like addition or something like that too.
I am specifically waiting to get that one so I can play it on the PlayStation 5. It's just there are no PlayStation 5s; they don't exist. So, so I'm just waiting. But I cannot wait because that's the only game I want on it, and it's just like, I want to experience it in the ultra beautiful version, and I can't wait but Miles does make an appearance in the other one.
Oh, does he?
Well. Yeah, you can't play as him, but you have a lot of moments with Miles.
Yeah, I think it's more than that though, because it's the colors too. It's the art style.
Yeah.
It's the story. Like it's everything.
Yeah, it's fantastic. All right, moving on to my next one, Pan's Labyrinth. So with this one. it is Guillermo del Toro. You sweet man. I would probably love more than anything to have a conversation with you one day. He's very much someone who I find very inspiring, and I believe Pan's Labyrinth is my favorite of his works. But being a Latino director is already a rarity, and to have the amount of fame, or well, at least in the United States, I know there's plenty of Latino directors across the world. But being one that has so much prevalence and respect across the United States is a rarity, and I just truly appreciate his work. And Pan's Labyrinth just has so many levels of depth and is just so aesthetically well done. I am in awe about it. It makes me think more about my heritage. It makes me think more about exploring the dark and the spooky and letting that be something that can still come across as soft and interesting, and fascinating, and I just really love the way that Guillermo does something very interesting with the story and everything that he truly brings together. But Pan's Labyrinth is a fantastic world, and my God, just the creatures alone are just.
If you haven't seen the movie, you just need to. It's just one of the movies you need to see in your lifetime. It's amazing. I don't know if I would describe it as soft. but it's terrifying and really good.
I think it's just like you're also speaking the perspective of the child, right? And the wonder that she's seeing in this darkness, right?
Right. Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
like, and so that's kind of like why I think that it has that kind of ability, kind of like stepping into the like the Alice in Wonderland style worlds, but in such a more horrifying way, which I think is very interesting. And exploring that level of darkness is something that I've definitely kind of played with in my designs, but I want to do that in at least in a more iconic way, not necessarily borrowing from something like zombies or things like that, but bringing our own spin on it all.
Yeah,
you know,
I for one would really like to see you explore your darkness, because you make really good things. Because you're so scared of like so many things that you make really good scary things.
All right, let's go ahead and jump in. We are running close on time, so on to John Carter.
Yes, so I thought people might think this is an interesting choice, and if you've seen the 80s covers, hold on, it does make sense. Let me explain. So John Carter and Mars is a book that I was read to me when I was very little. My papa would read it to me as bedtime story, and I loved it. And the reason I loved it was because there's a princess in it called Dejah Thoris. And in Mars, because it's not Earth, and this was written in 1912 too. This was amazing for 1912. Dejah Thoris was a princess who fought with a sword. She didn't need rescuing. I think she actually rescued John Carter a few times before he ever rescued her. And she just was like this amazing, just badass princess who didn't act like any of the other princesses I knew as a kid. And she was my princess. And I feel so lucky because I don't think it was really well represented. While it was such an advanced revolutionary book for 1912, it unfortunately, the art covers were not very revolutionary. They were very much like men standing over women. Dejah Thoris, like, and I tried. It actually was a struggle for me to find a picture that I felt represented the princess that I love in the story. And thankfully, some of the new things that are coming out are kind of representing her in a way that she truly was, I feel, in the book. But I would love to do this. I don't know if it's open domain. It should be. I think, like, you know how like they can make it so that it's not even when it should be, which is should be illegal. But I would just love to tell the story in the way that I see the princess, in the way that I see the story, in the way that she inspired me as a little girl to be so much more badass, so much cooler. And she is just such one of my big heroes, and she's never really been represented in an art style the way that she deserves. And it's just a very cool world on top of that. So if you haven't read John Carter, read John Carter, read it to your girls. It's amazing. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to make it. I'm going to give her she needs the treatment she deserves. I will do that for her.
So we have like 1, 2, 3. We have quite a few more to go through. We have at least 4 more to go through each. Now, do you think we should just like cut off here and continue this as a part 2 later on, or do you think we should try to rush through everything?
No, I think you and I can't. Panda
Angel, who's next running up, says go through them. So maybe
Are you sure?
All right, Panda Angel, we're gonna go ahead and do this. We're gonna go ahead and try to rush through them real quick. I think we can do it. Let's try to get it done in 10 minutes. Let's go.
Well, is she saying rush through them, or is she saying...
She said go through them. She wants to see it. Let's do it for Panda Angel. Let's do it for everyone. Come on. Let's give
All right, we're going to run a little late, though. There's no way Isaac and I are going to do this in 10 minutes. It might be 15.
She says also, no, don't rush. So we'll explain a little bit, but we want to be respectful of your time too, Panda Angel. So we're going to go ahead and get on with you here soon. But let's go ahead and do this. Jurassic Park. Everybody loves Jurassic Park. If you don't love Jurassic Park, I don't know what's wrong with you. At least the first movie. The first movie's so good. I don't know what child can't love dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are so cool, and there's so much.
There is no child that doesn't love dinosaurs.
Exactly.
This just can't exist.
When this came out, I was just a baby boy who loved dinosaurs like everyone else. And my gosh, this has already been done well, I feel, in the board game industry. I don't feel like I'd want to lend something else to it. unless it was like exploring more of the story behind it. But my God, this is one of my favorite movies. It's just like top of my list. It's so good. I just absolutely adore it. And I'm just so in love with it. It's great. It's great. It's great. But now let's move on to one that we both share. The Last of Us.
Okay, I was like, which one is that? I don't remember.
And 2.
Yes.
Part 1 and 2. So you can go ahead and start us off, but I'll just go ahead and add my
Yes. So The Last of Us, easily I think for Isaac and I probably our favorite video.
So this was on both of our lists when we shared them earlier.
Yeah, and honestly, it's probably really close to the top of both of our lists, if
Yes.
not the top. But the game brought me, I'm sure it was also with Isaac, to my knees. I experienced emotions and things that I never thought I'd experience in a video game. And it's just, and on top of that, that world is so authentic and so cool. The monsters are so awesome. And I just love it. They recently, I believe Simon recently announced that they were doing a Last of Us video game. And I was really upset.
I hope they're doing a board game.
They already, well, no, sorry. The board game. They're doing a board game. It's late. I'm tired. But like, yeah, doing a board game. And I was actually really upset because I had kind of always envisioned myself. I don't know how or why I thought this, but I thought I could do it. Like I thought maybe we would be the ones to tell that story because I thought Isaac and I could do it really well. And the people Simon, I am sure you guys are going to put your top people on it. I am sure it's going to be so good. But I was so jealous that I had to walk away from my computer and try to freak out because I was so upset that it wasn't going to be.
It was your code names, Bo.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a little bit more nervous. Like if we were ever approached with the IP,
we would say yes.
We would say yes, but I would be incredibly nervous to do this justice because Last of Us and Last of Us Part 2, my God, the story of Ellie, Abby, and Joel, like all of them coming together, the themes of this story and this game explore are represented so well in the medium that we get to play them through. It really redefined how games could tell a story for me. How I could be connected. I have never, outside of this game, felt more like I can't kill someone or I shouldn't do that. Like it pushed me like I don't want to, and the game is pushing me towards it, and I'm just like, wow. I don't like this played with me as much as I played with it, and I was just like, it was very, very compelling, and I just adore this series. I very much hope they don't mess it up on HBO with new people coming to represent these characters. And I am just absolutely in love. I'm in love. This is so good.
Yeah,
but
I heard one thing before we move on. I heard one thing about The Last of Us that I think is so true, and they said The Last of Us shows violence as it really is, which is horrible, traumatic, and something that stays with you for a long time. Yeah, and that's something that I don't think we had really seen in video games before.
Yeah, this story, both of the stories that are represented in this series will stay with me probably for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I'll be on my deathbed thinking about the end of Last of Us 1.
Yeah. All right, on to Ace Attorney.
Yes, so Ace Attorney, much more lighthearted. I have played these games since I was a teenager. I love the Phoenix Wright games. I love the world. It's so funny and bubbly, and the characters are they have a lot of depth to them. But they're also just super goofy, and you yell objection, and it would just be a blast. It would just be so much fun, and I think it would actually translate to a board game super well. And solving the mystery, and then doing the court case, and I don't have a lot to say about this other than it's just a super fun game. I love it. There isn't a lot of depth or meaning behind this one other than it just would be so much fun. It would be so much fun, and I think it would legitimately make a super great board game. I have ideas. I think it would be a blast.
I have never played Ace Attorney, but you love it so much that I have to. I have to try it out, and I can't wait to do so. And I know that they're remaking it, so I'm super excited to give it a try.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
All right, on to my next one, which is Hunter x Hunter, Hunter x Hunter for the super fans. um, I love this anime series. I still need to dive into the manga series. I just am in awe with what they try to do in this series as far as powers and abilities and world building and the strength that they display. It's very, very interesting, and I think that one of the things that both I love and infuriate me about the series is definitely the final arc of the anime series with the Chimera ants, which if people don't see some of the overlay there, definitely from Ashes. Hunter x Hunter probably inspired more of Ashes than people really know, because there's a lot of inspiration from Hunter x Hunter in Ashes. And I just absolutely adore what they tried to do with the series, and I really wish they would come back and try to finish out some of the manga series. I know it kind of goes all over the place after the series closes, but it's a very interesting, compelling series, and the way that they play around with their power levels and things like that. I love anime that, the typical fighting shonen style animes. Like, yeah, I'm totally into it. I'm sorry, but
Sorry, we forgive you, Isaac.
But Hunter x Hunter is probably my favorite of it so far. Though there are some that are coming up that are not coming up on this list, but like that people are working on right now that are very interesting as well. But yeah, there's just so much cool stuff going on in this world, and I think it's very, very interesting. All right, on to Samurai Jack.
Samurai Jack. Oh my God, Samurai Jack. Samurai Jack. I think of all the worlds, specifically the worlds, this would be my favorite one. Because everything's a robot, it seems, until it's not, which just can be really confusing. But like that, the robots can come in any form. The endless, eternal battle of Aku and Samurai Jack, and just like anything can happen in this world. It's in the future, but then you're in the past, and then you're in Japan tea house. And then all of a sudden you're in a disco. It makes no sense. There's no rule. I mean, there's rules, which is why the story is really good. But it feels like anything can happen anywhere, and it would just be like the gates would be open. You could do anything, and I would love it. There is one episode, I think it's actually the last episode of the first show before they did the adult reboot. The last episode, because the season got unexpectedly cut, I believe, for Clone Wars, was Samurai Jack finds a baby, and he takes care of it and tries to get it back to its mother. I would love to tell the story of the board game from that baby's perspective as he grew up. I think that would be such a cool continuation. It drives me nuts that was the last episode because we didn't get to know what happened.
So compelling.
But yeah, it would just be such a cool world. This was so influential on me as a young artist, and just the music. I believe I've heard, I don't know if this is true, I've heard the animator had synesthesia, and he would listen to the music and see what synesthesia is. When you hear music and you see it through like a visual reaction, and he would draw based on the visual reactions he was seeing. So what you see is actually syncing up. I don't know if that's true, but what an amazing thing.
Yeah.
Just how incredible would that be? And his world was really influenced by that, I guess, disability that he really turned into a cool asset.
Very, very cool. This is probably one of my greatest shames. Never seen Samurai Jack.
Oh my God.
I caught bits and pieces of episodes every once in a while on Cartoon Network, but I think we didn't have cable during that time, so it just wasn't available, and never seen it. I know people absolutely adore it.
It was groundbreaking, and the music in particular, groundbreaking.
I'm very interested to one day revisit it, but I never have. It might be a good one.
We'll watch it. When you come over, we'll watch together. We'll binge the whole show.
Oh my gosh. We're going to do way too much.
We haven't seen each other in like 2 years.
That's true. So. That's true. We got to. All right. On to Game of Thrones. Now, all of y'all. I know. I know those last 4 seasons were not what we wanted. I get it. I agree. But the first 4 seasons, my God. They were so well done. I can't imagine some better writing that I've seen come to life.
No, I don't know if there's ever been.
I was just so enamored. I actually slept on this show. Like, I was like, oh, I'm not gonna watch it. Like, it didn't get till season 2 till I was like, okay, fine, I'll watch it like everybody else. And I absorbed that first season so quickly and just an absolute love. I just could not believe that I just didn't know how good this was, because it was ridiculously good. And the drama, the world, so compelling. I'm still disappointed. I'm still hurt from how it all closed. But there is so much good there to be inspired from. As far as like making a board game or an IP, or taking it and making something from it, I don't know if I would like accept it. I think like the LCG and the stuff that Fantasy Flight has done a good job of representing it.
Oh yeah, the Game of Thrones card game is the best representation of Game of Thrones I've ever seen in a game. Yeah,
but I think there is a little bit. There still is some of the tension that the series created. I don't think it's been represented well enough in a game yet. I think
the story, I don't think.
I think the Telltale series did a decent job for like the first 2 episodes. But they weren't. It's
not very much, Isaac.
I know.
There was like 10 of those
episodes. It kind of got really janky later on. Like, I couldn't even finish it. But it was incredible, and I just absolutely love this series. I know I'm not one of those remake people, but remake. I don't know. It's fine. Like, it's incredibly inspiring, and I'm glad it exists in whatever fashion it ended in. I'm incredibly glad it exists.
And we still have the books, maybe.
Yeah, and save the ending. I'm incredibly excited to see what those books turn into and learn finally how George R. R. Martin was supposed to happen. We'll see. All right, on to you, Lindsay, and this is your historical one. I don't remember what it's called.
So it's all right. This one might break the rules because it's not technically an IP, but it's a game I've actually been tinkering with for a long time, that I have always wanted to do, and it is the Wrens at Bletchley Park. So the wonderful women that you're going to see popping up here in a second are the Wrens, and they were women who were in charge of helping break and keep breaking the Enigma code in Germany in World War II. And the code was initially broken by a man with a machine called, I believe, the Colossus machine. But it was women, and this was the first computer, really the foundation of the first computer. But it was a team of women who night and day worked endlessly to keep breaking the code, and if one mistake would usually cost lives. So they could not make mistakes. It had to be perfect every day they worked, and they had to work 24 hours around the clock to keep saving as many lives as possible. These women, unfortunately, do not get recognized very much for their work, even though they were a foundation of winning World War II. And I would just love to tell their story. I think a code-breaking game where you're all the team of women and you're just fighting against the game would be so cool. I think it would be super fun. And I think their story is just one that deserves to be told. And they were really our first like computer programmers. It was all like switchboards there. Like, it's like them just like frantically doing it.
Wow.
But they saved lives, and 303 of them died in World War II, gave their lives to keep doing this. And I'm just incredibly inspired by them. I've always wanted to do a game based on these women. And I don't think anyone's done it. So I want to do it.
Do it. Let's do it. I'm down. It's awesome. I personally never knew about this. I'm glad you brought it to our attention. It's fantastic. All right. We are closing with one that, you had mentioned. I'm so glad it's on the list. Avatar: The Last Airbender, which I'm sure every nerd, every person that's on here has heard of and probably enjoys as well. But my gosh, this show, still, I just rewatched it, the entire series, and Legend of Korra as well. I just rewatched it during quarantine, and it still holds up so well. It is such a masterful, well-done story that fulfills all the beats so well. There's action within every episode. Oh, just wanted to let you know, Panda Angel said that she would love to learn more about those women.
Oh, they're so amazing. Yeah, the Wrens were an incredible force of women in World War II.
And Avatar was just, it's just an inspiring IP. It's so well done, and
It is so well done.
And I think it's so well done that everybody that tries to represent it in another medium fails completely. Because everything that I've seen since it's come out, like that people have tried it, like the movie. I didn't watch that movie. I could not bring myself to do it. I know there's been a couple.
Sorry, Isaac, games. I did it for you. don't do it.
Yeah, I'm not going to. There's a couple board games I think that were based on it that were like whatever. And there has not been a video game that represents it well. There has not been something that has come out to live in that so well designed worlds. I don't know why.
And it's so
I do
fleshed
not
out.
know why.
It's so fleshed out.
It's so fleshed out, so done, so well done, and it sticks with people so much. And I would love to do something with the Avatar.
It's so amazing. The way that they made you feel for the villains. The way that each villain wasn't really a villain in some ways. Well, some of them were. Mm-hmm. But the way that they represented villains in a children's show was incredible.
Incredible.
And an amazing thing to teach kids.
Incredible. Well, on that, we're going to go ahead and close so we can go and spend some time with the wonderful Panda Angel, our last guest for Aw Shucks, and we are so excited.
One of the ones I've been most excited to meet, so I am about to get super pumped up.
Love you too, Panda Angel. And we are going to go ahead and go over to her now. If you can go ahead and jump in the Zoom, we are going to go ahead and take a little break, and we will be right back with Panda Angel. See you guys soon.
Right.
Thank you all. Bye.